Everybody wants to become successful. People say they want discipline. They say they want focus. They say they want to change their lives. But most people never do. Not because they're lazy, not because they're incapable, but because they're trapped in something far more dangerous, a cycle. And this is the story of a guy named Ethan who spent years trying to change his life, only to keep ending up in the exact same place. If you met Ethan at the beginning, you would have thought he was ambitious because honestly, he was. He watched motivational videos constantly, saved productivity posts, bought notebooks, downloaded habit trackers, made plans every Sunday night like his life was finally about to change. This time is different, he whispered to himself one night, staring at a fresh to do list. Wake up at 5 a.m., work out daily, no distractions, read 20 pages, build a business, change my life. And in that moment, he believed it. That was the strange part. Ethan never lacked desire. He genuinely wanted more from life, but wanting something and becoming the kind of person who can achieve it are two completely different things. Monday morning came, and for once, things actually went well. He woke up early, worked out, ate clean, studied for hours, stayed focused. By the end of the day, he felt incredible, powerful even. This is it, he thought. I finally figured it out. Tuesday was harder, but still manageable. Wednesday, he started slipping. A little more scrolling, a little less focus, a little less energy. By Thursday, the excitement was gone. And by the weekend, he was right back where he started, watching videos about discipline instead of actually being disciplined. The worst part wasn't failing, it was the guilt afterward, that heavy feeling in his chest when he looked at unfinished plans. The frustration of disappointing himself again, because deep down, Ethan knew something terrifying. This wasn't the first time, it was the hundredth. Every few weeks, the same cycle repeated: excitement, motivation, intensity, then collapse. And every time he failed, he hated himself a little more. One evening, his younger sister walked into his room. You still doing that productivity thing? She asked jokingly. Ethan forced a laugh. Yeah. She looked around at the notebooks scattered everywhere. You always start these things. The words hit harder than she intended. Because she was right. He always started, but he never lasted. That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying years of unfinished goals in his head. The business idea he abandoned, the gym phase that lasted 2 weeks, the online course he never finished, the books half read on his shelf. Every version of himself he tried to become eventually disappeared. And for the first time, he asked himself a painful question: what if I'm just not disciplined? The thought scared him, because if that was true, then maybe nothing would ever change. The next morning, Ethan met up with his friend Marcos. Now, Marcos was different: quiet, calm, consistent, not flashy, not loud, but somehow his life kept improving: health, money, focus, discipline. It wasn't dramatic, it was steady, and Ethan couldn't understand it. How do you stay consistent? He finally asked. Marcos looked at him carefully, then smiled slightly. You really want to know? Ethan nodded immediately. Obviously, Marcus leaned back in his chair. The problem isn't that you can't stay consistent, he said calmly. Ethan frowned. Then what is it? Marcus paused, then said something Ethan wouldn't fully understand until much later. You keep trying to change your life with emotion. Silence. Ethan blinked. What does that even mean? Marcus pointed at him. You only work when you feel inspired. Ethan opened his mouth to respond, but stopped because deep down he knew it was true. Motivation controlled everything. When he felt inspired, he worked hard. When he didn't, everything collapsed. Marcus continued. You think consistency is about motivation, he said. But consistency actually begins when motivation disappears. That sentence stayed in Ethan's mind long after the conversation ended because suddenly his entire life started making sense. He had been chasing excitement, not discipline. And excitement never lasts. Most people think discipline is about working harder. It's not. The real challenge is becoming someone who can keep going when life stops feeling exciting. Ethan didn't realize how addicted he was to motivation until he started paying attention. Every time he began something new, it felt amazing. New goals, new routines, new identity. For a few days, he became the person he always wanted to be, focused, driven, productive. But then reality showed up. The work became repetitive. The excitement faded, results slowed down, and suddenly everything felt heavier. That's when he quit. Every single time. One evening, Marcus invited Ethan to the gym. Ethan almost said no. He was tired, unmotivated, not in the mood. But Marcus insisted. When Ethan arrived, something confused him immediately. Marcus looked completely normal, not hyped, not energized, not intensely motivated. Yet he trained anyway. After the workout, Ethan finally asked, How are you this disciplined all the time? Marcus laughed quietly. I'm not. Ethan frowned. What? Marcus grabbed his water bottle. I don't feel like doing this most days, he admitted. I just do it anyway. That answer shocked Ethan because he had spent years assuming disciplined people felt different, more motivated, more driven, more inspired. But Marcus didn't feel inspired. He had simply stopped negotiating with himself. That realization changed something in Ethan's mind. For years, every decision depended on emotion. If I feel good, I'll work. If I feel inspired, I'll start. If I feel motivated, I'll continue. But emotions change constantly, which means his consistency was built on something unstable. No wonder it kept collapsing. A few days later, Ethan tried something different. Instead of creating a perfect routine, he made one tiny promise, just one. Every day, he whispered to himself, I will do something, even if it's small. No dramatic goals, no life changing plan, just consistency. At first, it felt almost pointless. 5 push ups, 10 minutes of work, a few pages of reading. His brain kept saying, This isn't enough. But Marcus told him something important. Consistency grows before results do. So Ethan kept going, not perfectly, but repeatedly. And slowly, something strange started happening. The resistance became smaller. The actions felt more automatic. For the first time in years, he wasn't relying on emotion anymore. He was building identity, not someone trying to change, but someone who simply shows up. And that changes everything because consistency isn't about intensity, it's about repetition, the ability to continue, even when the feeling disappears. But life was about to test Ethan in a way that would reveal whether he had truly changed or whether this was just another phase. Real consistency is invisible at first. That's why most people quit before it changes their lives. Because in the beginning, nothing dramatic happens, no instant transformation, no huge rewards, just small actions repeated quietly. And that's where Ethan almost failed again. A few weeks into his new routine, progress felt slow, too slow. His life didn't suddenly improve overnight. He still had bad days, still struggled with distractions, still felt tired sometimes. The difference was he no longer stopped. Even on bad days, he showed up. One night, Ethan sat at his desk staring at an old notebook filled with abandoned goals. He flipped through pages slowly. Business plans, workout schedules, study timetables, entire versions of himself that never survived long enough to become real. Then he looked at the current month for the first time. There were no huge achievements written down, but there was something else: evidence, small actions, repeated consistently. And suddenly, he understood something powerful. The people he admired weren't successful because they were always motivated. They were successful because they learned how to function without motivation. That was the secret. Not intensity, not inspiration, systems, identity, repetition. Months passed, and slowly the results began to appear, not explosive, but undeniable. His body changed, his focus improved, his confidence grew. Not because he became a different person overnight, but because he stopped quitting on himself. One evening, Ethan met Marcus again. You are right, Ethan admitted. Marcus smiled slightly. About what? Ethan leaned back. I thought consistency was about motivation, he said, but it's really about trust. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Trust? Ethan nodded slowly. Yeah, he said, keeping promises to yourself until your brain finally believes you. Marcus smiled because now Ethan finally understood. Every time you quit on yourself, you weaken your identity. But every time you follow through, even in small ways, you rebuild trust with yourself. And eventually, that trust becomes confidence. That confidence becomes discipline. And that discipline changes your life. So if you keep struggling to stay consistent, the problem might not be laziness. It might be that you're relying on motivation to do a job only discipline can do, because motivation can start the journey, but only consistency can finish it.